Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
We're on page 59 of the magazine, and it is November 19th. Our article today is Heartbreak, Romantic Metaphor or Serious Health Condition. So this is something we've actually learned recently. It's not like this is new knowledge. The fact that when someone experiences an intense sadness, it actually damages your heart. That's crazy, but also true. I mean, it's something that people have felt for millennium and talked about for millennium, but now we have the scientific reason of why it feels like your heart is actually broken, because it kind of is. All right, so let's read the article and find out how this works. It is an unfortunate fact of life that most of us will experience the sensation commonly known as heartbreak at some point in our lifetime. Heartbreak refers to feelings of extreme sadness, often prolonged, due to an emotionally traumatic event. The term heartbreak or broken heart is usually used in a metaphorical sense. That is, when we say someone is heartbroken, we do not mean that their heart has actually malfunctioned. However, what many people do not know is that so-called broken heart syndrome, also known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy, is a recognized physical health condition. Much like when people make metaphorical reference to heartbreak, broken heart syndrome is also caused by traumatic life events. These experiences usually involve death, divorce, separation, or romantic betrayal. However, this condition can have very real negative effects on a sufferer's health. In clinical settings, broken heart syndrome is often confused with a heart attack because many of the symptoms of these two conditions overlap. The main difference is that while a heart attack is characterized by a blockage in one of the heart's arteries, broken heart syndrome involves temporary swelling in one area of the heart. Such swelling hinders the heart's ability to continue pumping blood around the body and thus puts the sufferer at risk of heart failure. If you have experienced a stressful or traumatic event, two initial symptoms of broken heart syndrome to watch out for are chest pain and breathing difficulties. Recognizing one or both of these symptoms can be vital in helping you seek necessary treatment in the early stages of this condition. So the next time you feel like your heart is breaking in two, remember that it may not just be a feeling, but rather a sign of something more serious. So, it is an unfortunate fact of life that most of us will experience the sensation commonly known as heartbreak at some point in our lifetime. This is a very convoluted way of saying that basically everyone will get our heart broken at some point, which is sad but true.
好，那所以呢，刚刚的 Angela 就拿 convoluted 就是这个弯弯绕绕的就非常的把它变得很长这个绕了半天的意思
It's wordy.
就是 wordy 的意思convoluted. How do you spell the word?
Convoluted. C-O-N-V-O-L-U-T-E-D. Your revenge for having to explain a fancy word that I've used is to make me spell it. I get it.
Yep. 所以是 convoluted con 就 C-O-N 嘛 ver 就是 V-O 那 luted L-U-T-E-D 那我们看到这个句子其实各位也可以学起来，就是你要把这个把它讲的感觉很伟大，把这句子拉长的话，你就可以用这种结构It is an unfortunate fact of life that 如何所以这是一个很不幸的一个事实，人生的事实，就是 most of us 我们大多数的人 will experience 会经历到这个 sensation 是一种感受，它是一种 general feeling 那通常是 caused by something that happened to you 通常是因为某件发生了什么事情会让你感到这种感受，而且这种感受通常怎么样 sensation 通常 well it's usually used to refer to a feeling that you cannot describe exactly 那是这种 sensation 那种感觉所以这里告诉我们说，我们大多数的人都会经历到那种说不出的那种感觉，而这种感觉 commonly known as 一般称为所谓的心碎这种感觉。什么叫心碎？那种感觉其实不太好说那是怎么样 at some point in our lifetime 就是我们一生当中在某个时间点 at some point in our lifetime 我们每一个人大概都会经历过这种心碎的感受。
So heartbreak refers to feelings of extreme sadness, often prolonged, meaning often it takes a long time, over a long period of time, due to an emotionally traumatic event, due to something that really affects our emotions in a negative way. I don't know that heartbreak is about prolonged sadness. I'm going to say that heartbreak is about extreme sadness. Like, because the moment of your heart breaking is something that poets have described throughout centuries. You know, you get rejected by the love of your life, your heart breaks. I don't know if it's a long-term thing. It's definitely an intense thing, though.
好，所以这个地方呢，这个 prolong 这个字呢，就是延长、延迟很久的、长期的意思。那个 pro 就 forward， 已经很长了，你还把它往前更拉，拉得更长。所以 prolonged 是 drawn out，D-R-A-W-N drawn out， 或者是 lengthened 或者是 extended in time 那刚刚 Angela 讲说，这个你说 heartbreak 其实不见得是很长期的不见得是这个延迟很久的，那它比较是一种很 intense 很 extreme 的一种情绪。
I'm going to say the recovery period is very long, and that's why it seems like it's a long time. I think the event is short, and then the recovery is long.
那也许就是心痛这个时间，你要从里面恢复过来，这个就是一个 prolonged 的一个很长期的时间了。你要恢复recovery 是很 prolonged。好，我们回来看这个句，他说 heartbreak refers to 它指的是 feelings of extreme sadness， 它就是一种很强烈、很极端的一种难过的感觉 sadness， 常常会延迟很久。due to 是因为一种 emotionally 在情绪上面 traumatic 就是会有创伤的这样的一个 event 所以 traumatic 这个字就是会造成心理创伤的那 emotionally 强调它是心理的情绪上面的会造成创伤的一个事件，那就会形成会导致 heartbreak.
The term heartbreak or broken heart is usually used in a metaphorical sense. I mean, we're talking about that's what it feels like. And that's how it's often shown in cartoons, that your heart is like broken or ripped apart. That's another way that people describe it. But it doesn't mean that literally your heart has been split in two. It's just talking about what it feels like. So we use it as a metaphor, as a way to describe the feeling.
好，那刚刚 Angela 老师用到他讲到，你也可以说your heart is ripped apart， 被撕开来了，撕成两半。那个 rip 就是 R-I-P， 那分词的话，过去分词要重复字尾 R-I-P-P-E-D。好，所以接下来这个句讲说，这个 term heartbreak 或者 broken heart is usually used， 通常用在怎么样的方面呢？怎么样用呢？是用在一种比喻的一个意义上面，也就是它这种比喻用法。It's used in a metaphorical sense， 就是它是一种比喻用法。
That is, when we say someone is heartbroken, we do not mean that their heart has actually malfunctioned.
好 ，that is， 也就是说，当我们说某人 is heartbroken 这个是形容词那我们的意思并不是说他们的心脏是 actually 真正的 malfunctioned， 就是运作不正常就发生故障，也就是有问题的意思。这个 mal 就是 bad 所以 function 是工作，所以他工作很糟糕很坏，也就是他运作不正常。
I mean, we didn't used to mean that heartbroken meant that your heart was actually broken. However, what many people do not know is that so-called broken heart syndrome, also known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy, is a recognized physical health condition. So you actually can break your heart. Cardiomyopathy, medical terms in the West, they all come from Latin, so you can use it to figure out what these medical terms are. Although I prefer Chinese. Chinese just describes it directly in Chinese. We don't have to use another language to describe the thing.
Yeah.
But cardio means heart, and pathy means problem. And myo is referring to a part of the heart. I can't remember exactly.
OK. 好，所以呢，这个 cardiomyopathy 就是心肌病变心肌症那这个英文的疾病名称大概都是拉丁文这个变出来它最早它一定有一个拉丁文的说法，那这个字通常都会很长，但通常也可以拆开来解释的意思好，那我们来看到 这个句子他说，但是 what many people do not know is that 这句话大家可以学起来，就是有很多人不知道的是什么，通常就只说你要讲一个你们都不晓得哦，你就可以讲这一句 What many people do not know is that the thing that a lot of people do not know 很多人不知道是什么事情呢，是 the so-called 这个所谓的 broken heart syndrome 就大家都不知道有所谓的心碎症候群also known as 也称为 stress induced the stress induced 就是这个由压力所诱发的，那个 induce 就是诱发或者导致to cause to happen 所以它也被称为由压力诱发的心肌病变。那这样的一个东西呢，或者心肌症这样的一个东西呢 is a recognized 就是被正式承认的，叫做被 recognized 的一种 physical health condition 一种生理的健康疾病 condition 它可以表示一种疾病，尤其是跟心脏有关的时候，我们常常讲说 a heart condition 就是指心脏有疾病有问题。
So much like when people make metaphorical reference to heartbreak, just like when people are talking about heartbreak, broken heart syndrome is also caused by traumatic life events. So just heartbreak is caused by traumatic life events, broken heart syndrome is caused by traumatic life events.
好 much like 就是很像的意思就跟什么很像呢？跟当人们 make metaphorical reference to 就是当他们譬喻性的提到这个 heartbreak 的时候是一样的，也就是说 heartbreak 跟 broken heart syndrome 是一样的。哪方面一样呢？后面他讲说 broken heart syndrome 这个心碎症候群呢 is also caused by 它也是由什么所造成的呢？由这个 traumatic 就是会造成心理创伤的这种 life events 生活事件所造成的。换句话说，你所谓的比喻性的这种 heartbreak 跟真正的一种这个健康疾病叫做 broken heart syndrome 两个都一样，都是由 traumatic life events 所造成的。
So these experiences usually involve things like death, divorce, separation, or romantic betrayal. All of them talk about losing people. All of them are some kind of loss of relationships in your life.
那这些经验呢，这些 traumatic life events usually 通常 involved 和什么有关？和什么有关呢？和死亡、和离婚、和 separation， 它可以是分手，可以是分居，可以是分离还有跟什么有关呢？或者 romantic betrayal 就是感情上面的背叛betrayal 就是背叛。
However, this condition can have very real negative effects on a sufferer's health. So even though we think of emotional experiences and body health as being separate, and that's the weird thing about Western medicine. But actually, your emotions are experienced in your body. Obviously, they're going to have an effect on your body. So of course, if you've got something really traumatic happening to your relationship with a person, of course it's going to affect your health.
没错那我们看到这个句子，他说 however, this condition 可以有非常 real negative effects， 可以有非常负面的影响。对于什么呢？有负面的影响，对于 a sufferers 有这种患者，他的健康有很大负面的，他可以有负面的影响。
In clinical settings, basically at the doctors or places where they're talking about health, talking about treatments of health. So in these settings and places where people do medical treatment, broken heart syndrome is often confused with a heart attack. So often people, when they have broken heart syndrome, it's read as being a heart attack by the people trying to treat them because many of the symptoms of these two conditions overlap. There are very similar qualities to these two conditions.
好，然后我们看到这句，他说在这个 clinical settings， clinical 就是门诊的或者临床的setting 就是一个环境一个 context 或者一个 environment。所以这句话 in clinical settings 就是在临床上呢 broken heart syndrome 这种症候群呢 is often confused with 常常会跟什么混在一起呢？跟 a heart attack 跟心脏病或者心脏病发混在一起。因为呢这两种 conditions 在这里这 condition 就是指疾病了那这两种疾病呢它有很多的 symptoms 症状是 overlap 就是会重叠的 to have in common。
The main difference is that while a heart attack is characterized by a blockage in one of the heart's arteries, so a heart attack is characterized by, it means that the thing that causes a heart attack or what makes a heart attack is that you've got a block in your artery. Something is blocking the flow of blood through your heart. And so that's a heart attack. However, broken heart syndrome involves temporary swelling in one area of the heart. So instead of a blockage, there is a swelling. But they both do the same thing. They both reduce the amount of blood going through the heart. So it's very hard to tell which is which from the outside.
好，那他说他们两个主要的差别 ，the main difference is that 主要的差别是在于 ，while 是虽然或者一方面这个 heart attack 就是心脏病呢 is characterized by 就是它以什么为特征？心脏病的特征是 a blockage 就是阻塞。在哪里阻塞呢 ？In one of the heart's arteries， 你心脏的动脉阻塞，那就是这个 heart attack。那这是一方面，另外一方面呢，这个 broken heart syndrome 这种心碎症候群呢 ，involve 就是和什么有关？它涉及什么呢？它是跟 temporary swelling 有关。temporary 是暂时的 ，swelling 是肿大。in one area of the heart。在心脏的其中一个区域它会肿大。那其实不管是血管阻塞还是这个心脏某一个部分肿大，它结果都一样，它都会阻塞血液的流动，所以他们两个感觉起来会有的时候会搞混掉，但其实对身体都是很危险的。
And what happens is the swelling hinders or impedes or causes problems with the heart's ability to continue pumping blood around the body. It slows down the ability, or it slows down the volume of blood being pumped around the body. And this and thus and therefore and so puts the sufferer at risk of heart failure.
OK， 那 such 就是这样子，这种的肿胀呢 hinders 就是阻碍。那刚刚 Angela 讲它就是 impede I-M-P-E-D-E 这两个字都是阻碍的意思。所谓的阻碍就是它阻止你前进，它不一定会完全把你挡住，但是它会就阻止你前进它会 delay， 它会造成 delay， 会把你 hold back 那所以这种肿胀会阻碍心脏的能力。心脏什么能力呢？心脏要继续 pumping blood， 心脏要把血液打到你全身各地，就是要把血液输送到你全身各地。pump 像帮浦一样在打你的血液，所以他们会让心脏打血的这个能力会受到阻碍那这个血其实是要送到 around the body， 全身要送到全身去的。那因为这样子，它就会怎么样 ？puts the sufferer at risk of heart failure。heart failure 就是心脏衰竭那 put someone at risk of 没有的put someone at risk of 就是使某人置于什么什么的风险，也就是使他有这个危险。所以这里讲说 puts the sufferer at risk of heart failure 就是让患者有心脏衰竭的危险。
So if you have experienced a stressful or traumatic event, 2 initial symptoms of broken heart syndrome to watch out for are chest pain and breathing difficulties. An initial symptom is a symptom in the beginning of the problem. So when the problem starts, you will feel chest pain and you will notice breathing difficulties.
好，所以他说，如果你经历了一个 stressful 就充满压力的，或者是 traumatic 或者是会造成心理创伤的这样的一个事件呢，这样子的话 ，2 有2个 initial 就是初期的一开始的 symptoms， 也就是发病初期的症状那什么发病初期症状呢？就是这个 broken heart 这个 syndrome 一开始初期的症状有2个是怎么样 ？To watch out for 是你要注意的那是什么？哪2个呢 ？Are 这2个这个 symptoms initial symptoms 是 chest pain 就是胸痛chest 就是胸部然后呢还有另外一个是 breathing difficulties 就是呼吸的困难呼吸困难，所以有胸痛和呼吸困难你就要注意，要 watch out for， 这很可能就是 symptoms， 它很可能就是 initial symptoms of broken heart syndrome.
So recognizing one or both of these symptoms can be vital, can be life-saving in helping you seek necessary treatment in the early stages of this condition.
所以 recognizing 就是你要认得一个其中一个或者两个你都要认得of these symptoms 可以 can be vital 那 vital 这个是它的字根就是跟生命有关的，那在这里呢也是就是跟生命有关的啊。其实 vital 常常用来表示很极为重要的，为什么重要？因为跟生命有关，所以这个地方用 vital 这个是非常合适，因为它不但表示非常重要，而且表示真的是生命有关的啊。It can be vital 在哪一方面它是 vital 呢？在 helping you 它可以极为重要，它可以帮你怎么样跟生命有关的，你可以赶快怎么样 seek necessary treatment 寻求必要的治疗 in the early stages of this condition 在这个病症刚开始的时候早期的那几个阶段你就可以去 seek necessary treatment 你这个得到这个救治的时机非常的重要啊。那你如果救得早那就常常就有希望可以治好，那如果救得晚可能就无力回天。
So the next time you feel like your heart is breaking in two, something about this sentence makes me feel like the author thinks this happens to everybody quite often. I would say, so if at some point you feel like your heart is breaking in two, remember that it may not just be a feeling, but rather a sign of something more serious.
好，所以呢这个作者很有趣，他说 The next time you feel like 好像感觉起来会常常发生的，下一次你要注意咯。好，所以这里我们用 if 的话就是感觉起来就是如果这样的话，所以这语气上有一点点强弱的差别。The next time 感觉起来就是你一定会的那下一次呢你感觉到 feel like 你的心好像是 breaking in two 碎成两半的时候呢，要记得 it may not just be a feeling 它不见得可能只是一个感觉，而是 rather 而可能是 a sign of 是个迹象，什么的迹象呢？ something more serious 什么更严重事情的一个迹象，就搞不好真的是你的心脏有问题了所以下一次你如果觉得哎呀我心碎了，你要记得如果你看到这些 symptoms 的话，你要晓得它不一定可能只是个感觉，说不定真的有问题了。
So take care of your heart.
Yeah.
We have some questions here for you. Number one of which is, which of the following is not an example of describing something in a metaphorical sense in the first paragraph?
好，这也是一种这个108新课纲的这种混合题型第一题他说下列何者不是譬喻性的描述某个东西的例子？
So the answer is D. This is an example of not describing something metaphorically. During the interview, Ian was so nervous that his heart was pumping rather fast. This is not a metaphorical thing. This is description of what was actually happening.
答案是 D。 好，面试过程当中 Ian 他太紧张了，心脏跳得非常快，相当快。那这个心脏跳得很快，这个是真的事情，这不是一个比喻所以它不是个比喻，所以它是正确答案。
I mean, for example, in A, B, and C, if you could eat a horse, you wouldn't literally eat a horse. Or seeing a snake scared somebody to death. She didn't actually die. Or my mother hit the ceiling. My mother didn't actually hit the ceiling. It just felt like she did. But in D, it literally was that his heart was pumping fast.
好，所以要像前面A 他说他饿得可以吃下一头马了，他不可能真的吃马然后呢他被吓死了，他并没有真的死掉妈妈气炸了，并没有真的炸掉，他也没有真的去碰到那个撞到那个天花板，所以这些都是 metaphorical， 都是 metaphor。
So number two, what are two early symptoms that might indicate one might suffer from a broken heart syndrome?
Yeah, 这个题目说表明一个人可能罹患心碎症候群的早期症状有哪两个呢？
And the answer is A, chest pain, and B, breathing difficulties. And these two things are so vague as to be just about, it could be a lot of things. However, it is also this thing.
好，所以答案是 A, 胸痛，然后呢 B 就是呼吸困难。
And number three, fill in the blanks with information contained in the passage about the characteristics of broken heart syndrome and heart attacks, respectively.
好，请在空格中填入文中包含的资讯，分别描述心碎症候群和心脏病各自的特征。
So for broken heart syndrome, that condition, the characteristic you should write is temporary swelling in one area of the heart.
好，所以 A 你应该要写的是心脏的某一个部分某一个区域有暂时性的肿大。
And for heart attacks, the condition of heart attacks, the characteristic you should have written is a blockage in one of the heart's arteries.
好 ，B 这个地方你应该要写的是心脏的动脉阻塞。
Okay, that is all that we have for you today on Heartbreak. Thank goodness. No more heartbreak. And we'll meet you again tomorrow or the next time for more Ivy English. Until then, bye-bye.